Things to do. 1. Find Queen Amidala underwear. 2. Stop obsessing over whether or not Michael loves you versus being in love with you. Be happy with what you have. Remember, lots of girls have no boyfriend at all, or they have really gross ones with no front teeth like on Mary Porridge. 3. Call Tina to compare notes on how not chasing boys think is working. 4. Do all homework. Do not get behind first day. 5. Wrap Michael's present. 6. Find out what Grandmere talked to Mom about last night. Oh God, please don't not let it be something weird like wanting to take me skeet shooting. I don't want to shoot any skeets or anything else for that matter. 7. Stop biting fingernails. 8. Buy cat litter. 9. Figure out secret talent. If Lily knows, must be pretty obvious, as she hasn't even figured out about nostrils yet. 10. Get some sleep. Boys don't like girls who have huge, uncaged buzzwords like purple bags under their eyes, not even perfect boys like Michael. Tuesday, January 20th. Still in the limo on way to Grandmere's for princess lessons. Draft for English journal. How I spent my winter break. I spent my winter break in Genovia, population 50,000. Genovia is a principality located on the Côte d'Azur between Italy and France. Genovia's main export is olive oil. Its main import is tourists. Recently, however, Genovia has begun suffering from considerable damage to its infrastructure due to foot traffic from the many cruise ships that dock in its harbor and Wednesday, January 21st, homeroom. Oh my God, I must have been even more tired than I thought yesterday. Apparently, I fell asleep in the limo on the way to Grandmere's, and Lars couldn't even wake me up for my princess lesson. He says that when he tried, I swatted him away and called him a bad word in French. That is Francois's fault, not mine. So he had Hans turn around and drive me back to the loft. Then Lars carried me up 3 flights of stairs to my room. No mean feat. I weigh as much as about 5 fat Louis, and my mom put me to bed. I didn't wake up for dinner or anything. I slept until 7 this morning. That is 15 hours straight. Wow, I must have been fried from all the excitement of being back home and seeing Michael or something. Or maybe I really did have a jet lag, and that whole I am a talentless bum thing from yesterday wasn't rooted in my low self-esteem, but was due to a chemical imbalance from lack of REM. You know, they say that people who are sleep deprived start suffering from hallucinations after a while. There was a DJ who stayed up for 11 days straight, the longest recorded period of time anyone has ever gone without sleep, and he started playing nothing but Phil Collins, and that's how they knew it was time to call the ambulance. Except that even after 15 hours of sleep, I still feel like a bit of a talentless bum. But at least today I don't feel like it's such a tragedy. I think sleeping for 15 hours straight has given me some perspective. I mean, not everyone can be super geniuses like Lily and Michael, just like not everyone can be a violin virtuoso like Boris. I have to be good at something. I just need to figure out what that something is. I asked Mr. G today at breakfast what he thinks I'm good at, and he said he thinks I make some interesting fashion statements sometimes. But that cannot have been what Lily was referring to, as I was wearing my school uniform at the time she mentioned my mystery talent, which hardly leaves room for creative expression. Mr. G's remark reminded me that I still haven't found my Queen Amidala underwear, but I wasn't about to ask my stepfather if he had seen them. Ew! I try not to look at Mr. Ghianini's underwear when it comes back all folded from the laundry by the pound place, and thankfully he extends the same courtesy to me. And I couldn't ask my mom because once again she was dead to the world this morning. I guess pregnant women need as much sleep as teenagers and DJs. But I had seriously better find them before Friday, or my first date with Michael will be a full-on disaster. I just know it. Like, he'll probably open his present and be all, I guess it's the thought that counts. I probably should have just followed Mrs. Hakim Baba's rules and gotten him a sweater. But Michael is so not the sweater type. I realized it as we pulled up in front of his building today. He was standing there looking all tall and manly and Heath Ledger-like, except for having dark hair, not blonde, and his scarf was kind of blowing in the wind, and I could see that part of his throat, right beneath his Adam's apple and right above where his shirt collar opens, the part that Lars once mentioned, if you hit someone hard enough it would paralyze them. Michael's throat was so nice looking, so smooth and concave, that all I could think about was Mr. Rochester out on Mesrour, his horse brooding about his great love for Jane. And I just knew, I was right not to have gotten Michael a sweater. I mean, Kate Bosworth would never have given her quarterback boyfriend a sweater. Ew. Anyway, then Michael saw me and smiled, and he didn't look like Mr. Rochester anymore because Mr. Rochester never smiled. He just looked like Michael, and my heart turned over in my chest like it always does when I see him. "Are you okay?" he wanted to know, as soon as he got into the limo, his eyes so brown they are almost black, like the peat bogs Mr. Rochester was always driving past out there on the move, because if you step into a peat bog, you can sink in up to your head and never be heard from again, which in a way is like what happens every time I look into Michael's eyes. I fall and fall, and I'm pretty sure I will never be able to get out of them again. But that's okay, because I love being there, looked deeply into mine. My eyes are merely grey, the color of a New York City sidewalk or parking meter. "I called you last night," Michael said, as his sister pushed him to move over on the seat so that she could get into the limo too. "But your mom said you'd passed out. I was really tired, I said, delighted by the fact that he appeared to have been worried about me. I slept for 15 hours straight. Whatever, Lily said. She was clearly not interested in the details of my sleep cycle. I heard from the producers of your movie. I was surprised. Really? What did they say? They asked me to take a breakfast meeting with them, Lily said, sounding like she was trying not to brag. Only she wasn't succeeding terribly well. You could totally hear the gloating in her voice. Friday morning, so I won't be needing a ride. Wow, I said, impressed. A breakfast meeting? Really? Will they serve bagels? Probably, Lily said. I was impressed. I have never been invited to a breakfast meeting with producers before, just the Genovian ambassador to Spain. I asked Lily if she had come up with a list of demands for the producers, and she said she had, but she wouldn't tell me what they were. I think I'm going to have to watch this movie and see what's making her so mad. My mom has it on tape. She said it was one of the funniest things she had ever seen. But then, my mom laughs all through Dirty Dancing, even the parts that aren't supposed to be funny, so I don't know if she is the best judge. Uh-oh, one of the cheerleaders, sadly not Lana, tore her Achilles tendon during Pilates over the break, so they just announced they are holding tryouts for a replacement, as the team's alternate got transferred to a girls' school in Massachusetts due to having too wild of a party while her parents were in Martinique. I sincerely hope Lily is too busy protesting the movie of my life to protest the new cheerleading tryouts. Last semester, she made me walk around with a big sign that said, "Cheerleading is sexist and not a sport," which I am not even sure is technically true, since they have cheerleading champions on ESPN. But it is a fact that there are no cheerleaders for the female sports in our school, like Lana and her gang never turn out for the girls' basketball team or the girls' volleyball team, but they never miss a boys' game, so maybe the sexist part is true. Oh God, a geek just came in with a hall pass for me. I am being summoned to the office, and I didn't even do anything. Well, not this time anyway. Wednesday, January 21st, Principal Gupta's office. I can't believe it is only the second day of second semester, and already I am sitting here in the principal's office. I might not have finished my homework, but I fully have a note from my stepdad. It turned I turned it in to the administrative office first thing. It says, "Please excuse Mia for not completing her homework for Tuesday, January 20th. She was crippled with jet lag and unable to attend to her academic responsibilities last evening. She will, of course, make up the work tonight. Frank Giannini." It kind of sucks when your stepdad is also your teacher. But why would Principal Gupta object to this? I mean, I realize it is only the second day of second semester and already I've fallen behind, but I'm not that far behind and I haven't even seen Lana today, so it's not like I could have done anything to her or her personal belongings. Oh my God, it just occurred to me. What if they realized they made a mistake, putting me back in gifted and talented? I mean, because I have no gifts or talents. What if I was only put in there the first place because of some computer glitch, and now they have corrected it and they are going to put me in tech ed or domestic arts, where I belong? I will have to make a spice rack or worst, a western omelette, and I will never see Michael anymore. Okay, I will see him on the way to school and during lunch and after school and on weekends and holidays, but that's it. By taking me out of gifted and talented class, they will be depriving me of 5 whole hours of Michael a week. And true, during class we don't talk all that much because Michael really is gifted and talented, unlike me, and needs to use that class period to own his musical abilities instead of tutoring me, which is what he generally ends up doing thanks to my uselessness at algebra. But still, at least we are together. Oh God, this is awful. If I really do turn out to have a talent, which I doubt, why didn't Lily just tell me what it is? Then I could throw it in Principal Gupta's face when she tries to deport me back to Tech Ed. Wait, who does that voice belong to? The one coming from Principal Gupta's office? It sounds kind of familiar. It sounds kind of like Wednesday, January 21st, Grandmare's limo. I cannot believe Grandmere just did this. I mean, what kind of person does this? Just yanks a teenager out of school like this. She is supposed to be the adult. She's supposed to be setting a good example for me. And what does she do instead? Well, first thing, she tells a big fat lie, and then she removes me from school property under false pretenses. I am telling you, if my mom or dad finds out about this, Clarice Ronaldo will be a dead woman. And not like she didn't practically give me a heart attack, you know. Good thing my cholesterol and everything is so low thanks to my vegetarian diet. Otherwise, I might have suffered a serious cardiac infarction. She scared me so bad coming out of Principal Gupta's office like that and being all, well, yes, we are of course praying for his quick recovery, but you know how these things can be. I felt all the blood run out of my face at the sight of her, not just because, it was Grandmere talking to Principal Gupta of all people, but because of what she was saying. I stood up fast, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might go flying right out of my chest. "What is it?" I asked, all panicky. "Is it my dad? Is the cancer back? Is that it? You can tell me. I can take it." I was sure from the way Grandmere was talking to Principal Gupta that my dad's testicular cancer was back and that he was going to have to go through treatment for it all over again. "I will tell you in the car," Grandmere said to me stiffly. "Come along." "No, really," I said, trailing after her, with Lars trailing after me. "You can tell me now. I can take it. I swear I can. Is Dad all right?" "Don't worry about your homework, Mia," Principal Gupta called to us as we left her office. You just concentrate on being there for your father. So it was true. Dad was sick. Is it the cancer again? I asked Grandmere as we left the school and headed down to her limo, which was parked out front by the stone lion that arched the steps up to Albert Einstein High. Do the doctors think it's treatable? Does he need a bone marrow transplant? Because we're probably a match on account of my having his hair, at least what his hair must have looked like back when he had some. It wasn't until we were safely inside the limo that Grandmere gave me a very disgusted look and said, "Really, Amelia, there is nothing wrong with your father. There is, however, something wrong with that school of yours. Imagine not allowing their pupils any sort of absences except in case of illness. Ridiculous. Sometimes, people need a day, a personal day. I think they call it. Well, today, Amelia, is your personal day." I blinked at her from my side of the limo. I couldn't quite believe what I was hearing. "Wait a minute," I said. "You mean Dad isn't sick?" "What?" Grandmere said, her drawn-on eyebrows raised way up. "He certainly seemed healthy enough when I spoke to him this morning." "Then what?" I stared at her. "Why did you tell Principal Gupta?" "Because otherwise she would not have allowed you out of class," Grandmere said, glancing at her gold and diamond watch. "And we're late, as it is. Really, there is nothing worse than an overzealous educator. They think they are helping, when in reality, there are many different varieties of learning. Not all of it takes place in a classroom." Comprehension was beginning to dawn. Grandmere had not pulled me out of school in the middle of the day because anyone in the family was sick. No, Grandmere had pulled me out of school because she wanted to teach me something. "Grandmere!" I cried, hardly able to believe what I was hearing. "You can't just drive over and yank me out of school whenever you want to, and you certainly can't tell Principal Gupta that my dad is sick when he isn't. How could you even say something like that? Don't you know anything about self-fulfilling prophecies? I mean, if you go around lying around about stuff like that all the time, it could actually come true." "Don't be ridiculous, Amelia," Grandmere said. "Your father is not going to have to go back to the hospital just because I told a little white lie to an academic administrator." "I don't know how you can be so sure of that," I said angrily. "And anyway, where do you think you are taking me? I can't afford to just be leaving school in the middle of the day, Grandmere. I mean, I'm not as smart as most of the other kids in my class, and I've got a lot of catching up to do, thanks to the fact that I went to bed so early last night." "Oh, I am sorry," Grandmere said, very sarcastically. "I know how much you enjoy your algebra class. I'm sure it is a very great deprivation to you missing it today." I couldn't deny that she was right, at least partially. While I wasn't all that thrilled about the method by which she had done it, the fact that Grandmere had extracted me from algebra wasn't exactly something I was about to cry over. I mean, come on, integers are not my best thing. "Well, wherever we're we're going, I said severely. We better be back in time for lunch, because Michael will wonder where I am. Not that boy again, Grandmere said, lifting her gaze to the limo's sunroof with a sigh. Yes, that boy, I said. That boy I happen to love with all of my heart and soul, and Grandmere, if you could just meet him, you would know. Oh, we're here, Grandmere said with some relief as her driver pulled over. At last. Get out, Amelia. I got out of the limo, then looked around to see where Grandmere had brought me, but all I saw was the big Chanel store on 57th Street. But that couldn't be where we were headed, could it? But when Grandmere untangled Romeo from his Louis Vuitton leash, put him on the ground, and began striding purposefully toward those big glass doors, I saw that Chanel was exactly where we were headed. Grandmere, I cried, rushing after her. Chanel, you pulled me out of class to take me shopping? You need a gown, Grandmere said with a sniff, for the black and white ball at the Countess at Trevani's this Friday. This was the soonest I could get an appointment. Black and white ball? I echoed as Lars escorted us into the hushed white interior of Chanel's, the world's most exclusive fashion boutique. The kind of store that, before I found out I was a princess, I would have been too terrified even to set foot in, although I can't say the same for my friends, as Lily once filmed an entire episode of her cable access show from inside the dressing room at Chanel. She had barricaded herself in and was trying on Karl Lagerfeld's latest creations and wouldn't come out until security broke the door down and escorted her to the sidewalk. It had been a show on how haute couture designers are completely sizeist, seeing as how it is impossible to find leather pants in anything larger than a Mrs. size 10. What black and white ball? Surely your mother told you, Grandmere said, as a tall, reed-thin woman approached us with cries of, Your Royal Highnesses, how delightful to see you! My mother didn't tell me anything about a ball, I said. When did you say it was? Friday night, Grandmere said to me. To the sales lady, she said, Yes, I believe you've put aside some gowns for my granddaughter. I specifically requested white ones. Grandmere blinked owlishly at me. You are too young for black. I don't want to hear any arguing about it. Argue about it? How could I argue about something I hadn't even begun to understand? Of course, the saleslady was saying with a big smile. Come with me, won't you, Your Highness? Friday night? I cried, that part at least of what was going on beginning to sink in. Friday night? Grandmere, I can't go to any ball on Friday night. I already made plans with... But Grandmere just put her hand in the center of my back and pushed. And then I was tripping after the saleslady, who didn't even blink an eye, as if princesses in combat boots go tripping after her all the time. And now I am sitting in Grandmere's limo on my way back to school, and I can think about the number of people I would like to thank for my current predicament, foremost among which is my mother, for forgetting to tell me that she had already given Grandmere permission to drag me to this thing, the Contessa Trevani, for having a black and white ball in the first place. The salespeople at Chanel, who, although they are very nice, are really all just a bunch of enablers, as they have enabled my grandma to garb me in a white diamante ball gown and drag me to something I have no desire to attend in the first place. My father, for setting his mother loose upon the helpless city of Manhattan without anyone to supervise her. And, of course, Grandmere herself for completely ruining my life. Because when I told her, while the Chanel people were throwing yards of fabric over me, that I cannot possibly attend Contessa Trevani's black and white ball this Friday night, as that night is the night Michael and I are supposed to have our first date, she responded by giving me a big lecture about how a princess's first duty is to her people. Her heart, Grandma says, must always come second. I tried to explain how this date could not be postponed or rescheduled, as Star Wars could only be showing at the screening room that night, and that after that they would go back to showing Moulin Rouge, which I won't see because I heard someone dies at the end. But Grandmere refused to see that my date with Michael was anywhere near as important as Contessa Trevani's black and white ball. Apparently, Contessa Trevani is a very socially prominent member of the Monaco royal family, besides being some kind of distant cousin, who isn't, of ours. My not attending her black and white ball here in the city with all the other debutantes would be a slight from which the royal house of Grimaldi might never recover. I pointed out that my not attending Star Wars with Michael will be a slight from which my relationship with my boyfriend might never recover. But Grandmere said only that if Michael really loves me, he'll understand when I have to cancel on him. And if he doesn't, Grandmere said, exhaling a plume of grey smoke from the gitans she was sucking down, then he was never appropriate consort material to begin with, which is very easy for Grandmere to say. She hasn't been in love with Michael since the first grade. She doesn't spend hours and hours attempting to write poems befitting his greatness. She doesn't know what it is to love, since the only person Grandmere has ever been in love with in her entire life is herself. Well, it is true, and now we are pulling up to the school. It is lunchtime. In a minute I will have to go inside and explain to Michael how I cannot make it to our first date, or it will cause an international incident from which the country over which I will one day rule may never recover. Why couldn't Grandmere just have sent me to boarding school in Massachusetts instead? Wednesday, January 21st, G and T. I couldn't tell him. I mean, how could I? Especially when he was being so nice to me during lunch. Everybody in the whole school, it seemed, knew that Grandmere had come and taken me away during homeroom in her chinchilla cape, with those eyebrows and Rommel at her side. How could anyone have missed her? She is as conspicuous as Cher. Everyone was all concerned, about the supposed illness in my family, Michael especially. He was all, "Is there anything I could do? Your algebra homework or something? I know it isn't much, but it's the least I could do. How could I tell him the truth that my father wasn't sick, that my grandmother had dragged me off in the middle of the school to take me shopping? Shopping for a dress to wear at a ball to which she was not invited, and which was to take place during the exact time we were supposed to be enjoying dinner, and a space fantasy set in a galaxy far, far away. I couldn't. I couldn't tell him. I couldn't tell anyone. I just sat there at lunch being all quiet. People mistook my lack of talkativeness for extreme mental distress, which it was, actually, only not for the reasons they thought. Basically, all I was thinking as I sat there was, I hate my grandmother. I hate my grandmother. I hate my grandmother. I hate my grandmother. I really, really do. As soon as lunch was over, I snuck off to one of the payphones outside the auditorium doors and called home. I knew my mom would be there instead of at her studio because she is still working on the nursery walls. She had gotten to the third wall on which she was depicting a highly realistic painting of the fall of Saigon. "Oh, Mia," she said, when I asked her if there wasn't something she had possibly forgotten to mention to me. "I am so sorry. Your grandmother called during Law and Order. You know how I get during Law and Order." "Mom," I said through gritted teeth, "why didn't you tell her why did you tell her it was okay for me to go to this stupid thing? You told me I could go out with Michael that night." "I did?" My mom sounded bewildered. And why shouldn't she have? She clearly did not remember the conversation she had had with me about my date with Michael, primarily because she had been dead to the world during it. Still, she didn't need to know that. What was important was that she she was made to feel as guilty as possible for the heinous crime she had committed. "Oh, honey, I am so sorry. Well, you're just going to have to cancel with Michael. He'll understand." "Mom," I cried, "he will not. This was supposed to be our first real date. You've got to do something." "Well," my mom said, sounding kind of wry, "I'm a little surprised to hear you are so unhappy about it, sweetheart. You know, considering your whole thing about not wanting to chase Michael, canceling your first date with him would definitely fall into that category." "Very funny, Mom," I said, "but Jane wouldn't cancel her first date with Mr. Rochester. She just wouldn't call him all the time beforehand or let him get to second base during it." "Oh," my mom said. "Look," I said, "this is serious. You've got to get me out of this stupid ball." But all my mom said was that she would talk to my dad about it. I knew what that meant, of course. No way was I getting out of this ball. My dad has never in his life forsaken duty for love. He is full on Princess Margaret that way. So now I've been sitting here trying to do my algebra homework as usual because I am neither gifted nor talented, knowing that at some point or another I'm going to have to tell Michael our date is cancelled. Only how? How am I going to do it? And what if he's so mad he never asks me out again? Worse, what if he asks some other girl to see Star Wars with him? I mean, some girl who knows all the lines you're supposed to shout at the screen during the movie, like when Ben Kenobi goes, "Obi-Wan." Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. you're supposed to shout out, "How long?" And then Ben goes, "A very long time." There must be a million girls beside me who know about this. Michael could ask any one of them instead of me and have a perfectly wonderful time without me. Lily is bugging me to find out what's wrong. She keeps passing me notes because they are fumigating the teacher's lounge, so Mrs. Hill is in here today pretending to grade papers from our fourth period computer class, but really she is ordering things from a Garnet Hill catalogue. I saw it beneath her grade book. Is your dad super sick? Lily's latest note reads, "Are you going to have to fly back to Genovia?" "No," I write back. "Is it the cancer?" Lily wants to know. "Did he have a recurrence?" "No," I write back. "Well, what is it then?" Lily's handwriting is getting spiky. A sure sign. See, she is becoming impatient with me. "Why won't you tell me?" "Because," I want to scroll back in big capital letters, "the truth will lead to the imminent demise of my romantic relationship with your brother, and I couldn't bear that. Don't you see I can't live without him? But I can't write that, because I'm not ready to give up yet. I mean, am I not a princess of the royal house of Rinaldo? Do princesses of the royal house of Rinaldo just give up, just like that, when something they hold as dearly as I hold Michael is at stake? No, they do not. Look at my ancestresses, Agnes and Rosagunde. Agnes jumped off a bridge in order to get what she wanted, not be a nun, and Rosagunde strangled a guy with her own hair in order to not have to sleep with him. Was I, Mia Thermopolis, going to let a little thing like the Contessa Trevani's black and white ball get in the way of my having my first date with the man I love? No, I was not. Perhaps, then, this is my talent, the indomitability that I inherited from the Rinaldo princesses before me. Struck by this realization, I wrote a hasty note to Lily. Is my talent that I, like my ancestresses before me, am indomitable? I waited breathlessly for her response, although it was not clear to me that I was going to do if she replied in the positive, because what kind of talent is being indomitable? I mean, you can't get paid for it the way you can if your talent is playing the violin or songwriting or producing cable access television programs. Still, it would be good to know I'd figured out my talent on my own. You know, as far as climbing the Jungian tree to self-actualization went. But Lily's response was very disappointing. No, your talent is not that you're indomitable, Dinkus. God, you are so dense sometimes. What is wrong with your dad? Sighing, I realized I had no choice but to write back. Nothing. Grandmere just wanted to take me to Chanel, so she made up the thing about my dad being sick. God, Lily wrote back. No wonder you're looking like you ate a sock again. Your grandmother sucks. I could not agree more. If only Lily knew the full extent of how much. Wednesday, January 21st, 6th period, 3rd floor stairwell. Emergency meeting of the followers of the Jane Eyre technique of boyfriend handling. We are of course in peril of discovery at any moment, as we are skipping French in order to gather here in the stairwell leading to the roof, the door to which is locked, of course. Lily says in the movie of my life, the kids got to go on the roof of their school all the time. Just another example of how art most certainly does not imitate life, so that we can lend succor to one of our sisters in suffering. That's right. It turns out that I am not the only one for whom the semester is off to an inauspicious beginning. Not only did Tina sprain her ankle on the ski slopes of Aspen, no, she also got a text message from Dave Baruchalabar during fifth period over her new cell phone. It said, "You never called back. Am taking Jasmine to Ranger game. Have a nice life." I have never in my life seen anything so insensitive as that message. I swear my blood went cold as I read it. "Sexist pig," Lily said when she saw it. "Don't even worry about it, Tina. You'll find something better. Somebody better." "I don't want someone better," Tina sobbed. "I only want Dave." It breaks my heart to see her in such pain, not just emotional pain either. It was no joke trying to get up to the third floor stairwell on her crutches. I have promised faithfully to sit with her while she works through her anguish. Lily is taking her through Elizabeth Ross's 5 stages of breakup grief. Denial. I can't believe he would do this to me. Anger. Jasmine is probably a cow who frenches on the first date. Bargaining. Maybe if I tell him I'll call him faithfully every night, he'll take me back. Depression. I'll never love another man again. Acceptance. Well, I guess he was kind of selfish. Of course, being here with Tina instead of in French class means I am risking possible suspension, which is the penalty for skipping class here at Albert Einstein. But what is more important, my disciplinary record or my friend? Besides, Lars is keeping a lookout at the bottom of the stairs. If Mr. Krebletz, the head custodian, comes along, Lars is going to whistle the Genovian anthem, and we'll flatten ourselves against the wall by the old gym mats, which are quite smelly by the way, and undoubtedly a fire hazard. Although I am deeply saddened for her, I can't help feeling that Tina's situation has taught me a valuable lesson, that the Jane Eyre technique of boyfriend handling is not necessarily the most reliable method by which to hang on to your boyfriend, except that, according to Grandmere, who did manage to hang on to a husband for 40 years, the quickest way to turn a guy off is to chase after him. And certainly Lily, who has the longest running relationship of any of us, does not chase after Boris. Really, if anything, he is the one doing the chasing, but that is probably because Lily is too busy with her various lawsuits and projects to pay much more than perfunctory attention to him. Somewhere between the two of them, Grandmere and Lily, must lie the truth to maintaining a successful relationship with a man. Somehow I have got to get the hang of this, because I will tell you one thing. If I ever get a message from Michael like the one Tina just got from Dave, I will fully be taking a swan dive off the Tappan Zee, and I highly doubt any cute Coast Guard captain is going to come along and fish me out. At least not in one piece. The Tappan Zee Bridge is way higher than the Pont das Virgens. And, of course, you know what this means. This whole thing was Tina and Dave. I mean, it means that I can't cancel my date with Michael. No way, no how. I don't care if Monaco starts lobbing SCUD missiles at the Genovian House of Parliament. I am not going to that black and white ball. Grandmere and the Contessa Trelawney are just going to have to learn how to live with disappointment. Because when it comes to our men, we Ronaldo women don't mess around. We play for keeps. Homework, algebra, probes at beginning of chapter 11, plus don't know thanks to Grandmere. English, update journal, how I spent my winter break, 500 words, plus don't know thanks to Grandmere. Bio, read chapter 13, plus don't know thanks to Grandmere. Health and Safety, Chapter 1, You and Your Environment, plus Don't Know, thanks to Grandmere. G and T, Figure Out Secret Talent. Friend, French, Chapter This, plus Don't Know due to skipping. World Civ, Chapter 13, Brave New World. Bring in current event illustrating how technology can cost society. Wednesday, January 21st. Limo on the way home from Grandmare's. While I might never actually figure out what my own talent is, if I even have one, Grandmere is only too painfully obvious. Clarice Ronaldo has a total gift for completely destroying my life. It is abundantly clear to me now that this has been her goal all along. The simple fact of the matter is, Grandmere can't stand Michael. Not, of course, because he's ever done anything to her, never done anything to her except make her granddaughter superbly, sublimely happy. She's never even met him. No, Grandmere doesn't like Michael because Michael is not royal. How do I know this? Well, it became pretty obvious when I walked into her suite for my princess lesson today, and who should just be coming in from his racquetball game at the New York Athletic Club, swinging his racket and looking all Andre Agassi-ish. Oh, only Prince Rene. What are you doing here? I demanded in a manner that Grandmere later reproved me for. She said my question was unladylike in its accusatory tone, as if I suspected Rene of something underhanded, which of course I did. I practically had to beat him over the head back in Genovia to get my scepter back. Enjoying your beautiful city, was how Rene replied, and then he excused himself to your shower, because, as he put it, he was a bit ripe from the court. Really, Amelia, Grandmere said disapprovingly, is that any way to greet your cousin? Why isn't he back in school? I wanted to know. For your information, Grandmere said, he happens to be on a break. Still, this sounds pretty suspicious to me. I mean, what kind of business college, even a French one, has a Christmas break that goes practically into February? Schools like Rene's, was Grandmare's explanation for this, traditionally have longer winter holiday than American ones, so that their pupils can make full use of the ski season. I didn't see any skis on him, I pointed out craftily. Fleet was all Grandmere had to say about it, however. Rene has had enough of the slopes this year. Besides, he adores Manhattan. Well, I guess I could see that. I mean, New York is the greatest city in the world after all. Why, just the other day, a construction worker down on 42nd Street found a 20-pound rat. That's a rat that's only 5 pounds lighter than my cat. You won't be finding any 20-pound rats in Paris or Hong Kong, that's for sure. So, anyway, we were going along during the princess lesson thing, you know. Grandmere was instructing me about all the personages I was going to meet at this black and white ball, including this year's crop of debutantes, the daughters of socialities and other so-called American royalty who were coming out to society with a capital S and looking for husbands, even though what they should be looking for, if you ask me, is a good undergraduate program and maybe a part-time job teaching illiterate homeless people to read. But that's just me. When all of a sudden it occurred to me the solution to my problem. Why couldn't Michael be my escort to the Contessa Trelawney's black and white ball? Okay, granted it's no Star Wars, and yeah, he would have to get his hands on a tux and all, but at least we would be together. At least I could still give him his birthday present in a forum that was outside of the cinder block walls of Albert Einstein High. At least I wouldn't have to cancel on him altogether. At least the state of diplomatic affairs between Genovia and Monaco would remain at DEFCON 5. But how, I wondered, was I ever going to get Grandmere to go along with it? I mean, she hadn't said anything about the Contessa letting me bring a date. Still, what about all those debutantes? Weren't they bringing dates? Wasn't that what West Point Military Academy was for? Providing dates to debutante balls? And if those girls could bring dates, and they weren't even princesses, why couldn't I? How I was going to get Grandmere to let me bring Michael to the black and white ball after all of our long discussions about how you must not let the object of your affection even know that you like him was going to be a major obstacle. I decided I would have to exercise some of the diplomatic tact Grandmere had taken so much trouble to teach me. And please, whatever else you do, Amelia, Grandmere was saying, as she sat there running a hairpick through Rommel's sparse fur, as the royal Genovian vet had instructed. Do not stare too long at the Contessa's facelift. I know it will be difficult. It looks as if the surgeon botched it horribly. But actually it's exactly the way Alina wanted it to look. Apparently she has always fancied resembling a volleyed bass. Listen, about this dance, Grandmere, I started in all subtly. Do you think the Contessa would mind if I, brought someone? Grandmere looked at me confusedly over Rommel's pink, trembling body. What do you mean, Amelia? I highly doubt your mother would have a very nice time at the Contessa Trelawney's black and white ball. For one thing, there won't be any other hippie radicals there. Not my mom, I said, realizing that perhaps I had been a little too subtle. I was thinking more, of an escort. But you already have an escort, Grandmere adjusted Romel's diamond-flake-encrusted collar. "I do." I did not recall anyone asking to scrounge up a West Pointer for me. "Of course you do," Grandmere said. "Still not," I noticed, meeting my gaze. "Prince Rene has very generously offered to serve as your escort to the ball. Now, where were we? Oh yes, about the Contessa's taste in clothes. I think you've learned enough by now to know that you aren't to comment, at least to her face, on what any of your hostesses appear to be wearing. But I think it necessary to warn you that the Contessa has a tendency to wear clothes that are somewhat young on her, and that reveal—" "Rene is going to be my escort?" I stood up, nearly knocking Grandmere's sidecar over as I did so. "Rene is taking me to the black and white ball." "Well, yes," Grandmere said, looking blandly innocent, a little too blandly innocent if you asked me. "He is, after all, a guest in this city, in this country, as a matter of fact. I would think that you, Amelia, would be only too happy to make him feel welcome and wanted." I narrowed my eyes at her. "What is going on here?" I demanded.